fully know that the enormity of their contributions can still be felt every day by millions of people across the globe. Their legacy lives on. And if you listen carefully, you can still hear that grand anvil chorus ringing through the air.
They said it couldn't be done, the joining of the rails. They said we were too weak and frail. They said it was impossible. Through icy storm and desert heat, we crossed a mighty trail. We turned the mountains to dust. We bound the earth in iron. They said it was impossible. Beneath the stars and the houses made of snow, we longed for home. We longed for home. We longed for home. They said it was impossible. We bled. We died. We dreamed. They said it was impossible. You do not know our names. You may never know our faces, but our hearts built America. They said it was impossible. They said it couldn't be done, the joining of the rails. They said we were too weak and frail. They said it was impossible.
Hey guys, what you just watched is just a little performance I did in the 2019 United States National Railroad Hall of Fame induction ceremony. In that little performance, you can tell I was very nervous. So what really helped me through that performance was my little secret way of speaking English. In my last video, I shared with you guys that English language and Chinese language are so different, so they must be spoken using different parts of your body. English language is spoken in a much lower position from your throat and your chest only. And the Chinese language is spoken much higher using both the upper and the lower half of your mouth. So that's difference. Today, I'm going to share with you guys the technique of or the trick how to make the switch from your Chinese way of speaking to the English way of speaking. And the first step I'm going to talk about in this video is to make the conceptual change. So you must be convinced that Chinese and English are spoken using different parts of your body. So therefore, with that kind of conviction, you can then make a 100% commitment into the change. So today, I'm going to use me as an example, just to show you guys how dramatic this little secret has changed me in just a few weeks, a few months. So I'm going to use the performance as a storyline to tell you guys a story so you can see how I speak. So it's just a story a content to tell story. So itself is not particularly important. I just want to have something to talk about so you can see how I speak. So first, let's just listen to how I speak before I discovered this little secret. So here you go. It's my best recording. Where did you go? Isn't it? This is Mrs. Smith. No, this is the first time. What are you thinking about? Is Mr. Smith an American? So that was me, and you can tell clearly I was no different. So I was just like you guys speaking English in a very standard Chinese English way. So now you can feel, of course, just by watching me on the screen, you can tell that I don't use my mouth to speak. I'm using my throat and my chest. So that's a huge difference here. So now, with that background of my way of speaking, I want to tell you guys the story of this little performance, so you can appreciate how much this speaking from your throat and your chest has changed me and giving me the confidence to speak, to perform in the toughest situation I was ever in. So let's get back to the performance. So in this 2019 Hall of Fame induction ceremony, two parties are inducted into the Hall of Fame. One is President Lincoln. The other is the Intercontinental Railroad construction workers. So one medal was given to President Lincoln, and another was given to the Chinese construction worker, and one more given to the other workers. So two little performances were scheduled for this ceremony. One was the reenacting of the signing of the legislation to build the railroad by President Lincoln. President Lincoln was recognized for his vision and his leadership in pushing the legislation through the Congress. And the construction of the railroad really changed the United States, which united the people, the Americans, into one nation and one people. Before that, just a few years before that, California was still part of Mexico. So just became the one of the state of the United States. So this railroad really connected the California to the rest of the country. And so this railroad connected from the west to east, from Pacific Ocean all the way back to Atlantic Ocean. So that was a huge contribution. So President Lincoln was recognized for his contribution. And then the Chinese worker was also recognized, and a representative was invited to perform or to represent the Chinese workers. So I did the second performance. Of course, I didn't know anything about it. All I knew was that they needed a Chinese guy to represent the Chinese workers. So therefore, I said, yes, I was willing to be part of it. But the moment the performance started, when the actor acting for President Lincoln appeared on the stage, I realized that this was no ordinary performance. It was a very professional. In fact, the actor was a professional movie actor. Let me show you guys some of his performance in a movie.
General, congratulations on your victory and promotion. General.
Do you see me as a monster, Mr. President?
I see you as a true general.
Miss Shakespeare, allow me to introduce my mother Mary and my father, the president. Father, please meet Julia Shakespeare.
Miss Shakespeare, how do you do? It's a great pleasure to meet you.
And here is the performance in the ceremony. So,
As a young man working on a flatboat, I came to know the strength and majesty of that river well, witnessing firsthand the winding highway of traffic and trade. But each year, settlers pushed beyond the river, settling new countries with a rapidity never before seen in the history of the world. The deep fears felt by those who relied on north-south flow of traffic along the river became most evident with the F-Afton case of 1857, as steamboat investors challenged the right of railroads to bridge U.S. rivers.
So I was watching him right in front of him. And at that point, I was telling myself, oh my God, what kind of trouble I got myself into. And this is for real. And I'm no actor. I had no experience performing in whatever kind of situation. Never did any presentation, performance in front of on a stage. So I was so nervous. I knew that the people in the auditorium would laugh at my amateurish, my poor performance right after this professional movie actor finishing his performance. So I almost wanted to run away, but I knew there was no escape. So I had to do it. But then, as the performance moved to the second part, I started to realize the contribution from the Chinese workers, and also the suffering of the Chinese worker, and also the injustice was done to them after the railroad was built. So with that kind of knowledge, then I started feeling that I needed to do this for them. I had the desire to give a voice to those silent workers. The reason the workers suffered so much was because the condition of the construction was terrible, and nobody was willing to do the work. So only the Chinese workers were willing to do it because they had any other job opportunity. And the construction site was so terrible. They had to build the railroad across the mountain, and on top of the mountain, at the summit, just about like the same place, actually exactly the same place, 200 some people was trapped in a snowstorm just about like 30 years before they started the construction. And then those people could not go anywhere in the winter storm. Eventually, they had to eat human flesh to survive. Many, probably more than half died. Some survived by eating human flesh. So that was only 30 years ago, and 30 years later, the Chinese started the construction. So you can imagine many people died of the harsh condition, and also many died of the dangerous working condition because they had to use dynamite to blow up the mountain to open tunnels. So you can imagine the danger of trying to do those kind of work. So at that time, there was an expression called a Chinaman's chance. That's a Chinaman's chance of surviving the dynamite. So what you do is you light the fuse of dynamite, and then you try to run away as quick as you could, so to get out of the blast zone. And you know, accidents happen all the time. Maybe the fuse was burning too fast. Maybe the workers were running a bit too slow. Maybe the workers tripped and they couldn't get out there in time. So for all sorts of reasons, many people died. So you can imagine how dangerous, how much suffering those Chinese workers endured. And so, but nobody recognized their suffering or their contribution. And at the celebration after the construction, the Chinese workers were never mentioned. And even up to 100 years later, in the 100-year anniversary celebration, they had a huge celebration, and the Chinese Historic Society in San Francisco made a plaque and sent a representative to deliver that plaque to the ceremony. But the plaque was not allowed to be displayed in the ceremony, and the representative from the Chinese Historic Society was not even allowed to enter into the ceremony. So you can imagine how much injustice had been done to the Chinese workers. 50 years later, things have changed a lot. Today, the Chinese workers were recognized and together with other workers are inducted into the Hall of Fame, and are also awarded a medal. So that was a huge change. But again, still those people are just now silent, faceless, nameless. So with that kind of understanding, my legs just stopped trembling because I just felt I had to do this for them. I had to give those nameless, faceless people a voice to voice their suffering and their dream and their desire. So that gave me the courage to stand up. But of course, courage alone would not do the job, because you still need the skill. So the second part was that I just told myself, look, I just got this little secret of how to speak English. I knew at that point I could speak English if I just use my old little trick. So that gave me the confidence and the comfort that I could do it. So with that two factors, the desire, the courage to do it, and the confidence, I could do it. So I stood up and then I performed my part on the stage. And afterwards, I was given the strongest indication that I did my job, did a really, really nice job. So thanks to my little secret, which really saved me. So it's not how perfect you speak English. It's that you gain that confidence. It's reliable, it's simple, it's dependable. So even in the toughest situation, you can rely on it. So that was the reason I was able to perform my job. So that's the story. So I finished my story. But don't forget, here, the purpose is just to show you guys how much I have changed from my old way of speaking. So let's listen to my older way of speaking one more time from the recording. Where did you go? Isn't it? This is Mrs. Smith. No, this is the first time. What are you thinking about? Is Mr. Smith an American? Okay, now that refresh your memory how I spoke from my mouth and how I speak now from my throat and my chest. So that's two different ways of speaking. And this new way is just so much easier, so much simpler to speak. So that is all I have for you guys today. The most important transition step for you is conceptual change. You must recognize that conceptually English is not spoken from here, it's spoken from here. So therefore, with that understanding, then you can make the change much easier. From now on, I want you guys really think about the speaking is so different. It's very alien kind of way and a very strange kind of way of speaking. When I just started, I couldn't believe it. So only just maybe last 10 days, I became fully convinced that was the way to speak. So it's a very new concept I'm sharing with you guys. So I hope you guys will pick up this little trick and dramatically improve your way of speaking English. I want to emphasize again and again, there's no way to compare different people speaking English, how good one speak, because speaking good or bad, well or poor, involves a lot more than just language itself. It's just the ability to speak, your intonation, your pace, the way you deliver, the emotion, all those things come into play. So here we are just emphasizing the technique of speaking to make a sound out of your throat. So that is something we're talking about. And also, I'm not trying to compare myself with anybody else. I have no interest in that. I compare myself against my past. I know how terrible I was before. I know how much better I am now. So that's why this little secret is so dramatic. So if you have a much better foundation than I did, then this little secret will make you even much better than I'm speaking right now. And also, I want to let you guys watch me and you gain the confidence that, look, this Chinese old fellow, he could do it. He, by the way, I'm between 50 and 60. I'm more 60 than 50. So if I could do it, you young folks should be able to do much better than I do. So I want to challenge you guys. And meanwhile, I also want to give you guys the confidence that you can do it. You could do much better. So with that said, I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.
You do not know our names. You may never know our faces, but our hearts built America. They said it was impossible. They said it couldn't be done, the joining of the rails. They said we were too weak and frail. They said it was impossible.